All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're unpacking one of the most fascinating companies on the planet, Tesla. We're looking at a deep dive analysis that paints a picture of a company at a serious crossroads, basically caught between two different worlds, the tough reality of its car business right now and the absolutely spectacular promise of its future. And this really boils down to the one central question that defines everything about Tesla at this moment. Seriously, how you answer this completely changes how you value the company, its massive challenges, and its even more massive valuation. So let's break down the numbers and see what they tell us. Okay, so first things first, we have to look under the hood, right? At the part of Tesla that's supposed to be paying for everything else, building and selling cars. And according to this analysis, some pretty serious cracks are starting to show up. Let's start right at the top, with revenue. For 2024, Tesla's auto revenue actually went down by 6% year over year. Now, you might be thinking, 6%, is that really a big deal? Well, for a company built on a story of nonstop growth, yeah, it is. This was the first time in a long time their main business went backward, and believe me, it was just the beginning. See, it wasn't just a one-off thing. The slowdown actually got worse as we moved into 2025. Deliveries fell by about 13% in the first quarter, and then they fell by another 13% again the next quarter. When you see that kind of back-to-back drop, you start to wonder, is this something bigger? Is the market for their current cars just hitting a wall? So what do you do when sales are sliding? Well, Tesla's move was to slash prices. A lot. And you can see the brutal result right here. The company's net profit margin, which used to be this amazing 15.5%, has been completely crushed, all the way down to just over 6%. And when you squeeze your margins that hard, well, the effect on your actual profit is just devastating. In the first quarter of 2025, net profit didn't just drop, it plummeted. We're talking a 71% fall from the year before. I mean, wow, that's a massive, massive hit. For years, we all heard the same story, right? Tesla's manufacturing is this unstoppable force, light years ahead of everyone else. But when you see numbers like these, that entire narrative starts to wobble. This whole idea of an untouchable advantage, it's suddenly not so clear anymore. And get this, because this detail shows just how much pressure they're really under. Those regulatory credits they sell to other car companies? Think of it as basically free, high-margin money. Well, without that $500 million+ in Q1, Tesla's main car business would have actually been in the red. It would have posted a loss. So all of this leads to a really big problem. Cash, or a lack of it. In the second quarter of 2025, they brought in just $146 million in free cash. Now, hold that number in your head, because their plan for the year is to spend more than $9 billion on big projects like AI and new factories. You see the problem here, right? How are you supposed to fund a $9 billion dream on $146 million in cash? It doesn't compute. So with all that said, if the core business is struggling this much, how in the world is the stock valued so high? This, my friends, is what we're calling the Great Valuation Disconnect. Let me just put this in perspective for you. Tesla's price-to-earnings ratio is hovering around 180. That means for every single dollar of profit Tesla makes, investors are paying $180. Now, look at an old-school car company like GM. Their PE, it's about 9. Not 90, 9. There is no way the market is looking at Tesla and just seeing a car company. Something else is going on. So it begs the question, right? If you're not buying what they're doing today, what are you buying? The answer is you're buying a story. A very, very expensive story about tomorrow. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because that story, it's a tale of two futures. You have this super optimistic version and the, well, not so optimistic version. This is the classic battle playing out in the stock, the bulls versus the bears. All right, so the bulls, they're not just betting on a better car. They're betting on a total revolution. They're looking at robo-taxis as a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. They're looking at the energy business, which is growing like crazy. And of course, they're looking at the Optimus robot. But, and this is a huge but, all of those moonshots need fuel. Billions and billions in cash. The same cash that we just saw is getting squeezed. Now the bears, they look at the exact same picture and see a mountain of risk. They see brutal competition, a track record of blown deadlines, and a CEO who seems to be juggling a dozen things at once. And the bears will point to things like this. Check out these insider trades. In the last year, the top people at the company, the executives, the board, they've sold their stock 39 times. And how many times did they buy? Just twice. When the people who are closest to the action are selling that much, it's a pretty powerful signal, and not a good one. And it's not just internal stuff. Look at the world around them. Tesla is driving straight into some major headwinds. The whole EV craze is cooling off a bit. Hybrids are suddenly popular again. And with car loan rates pushing past 9%, it's just plain expensive for anyone to buy a new car right now, especially a premium one like a Tesla. Okay, so we've seen the struggling core business and we've seen the massive speculative future. What's the bottom line? Let's wrap this up with the analysis final verdict and what you should be keeping an eye on going forward. When you put it all together, the verdict from this particular research report is pretty clear. It's bearish. The basic idea is that the current stock price is pricing in a perfect, flawless future. A future where the robo-taxis work, the robots take over, and everything goes off without a hitch. And in doing so, it seems to be ignoring all the very real problems happening in the here and now. But look, this story is far from over. These are the big milestones that could change everything. Will the robo-taxi service actually scale up? Can they really deliver on that affordable, under $30,000 car they've been promising? And will Optimus ever be more than just a cool prototype? The answers to these questions will decide whether the bull's dream becomes a reality. And that really brings us back to the ultimate question at the heart of this whole thing. It's the central conflict in the Tesla story. How long can you ride on a spectacular promise for the future when the reality of today is facing so much pressure? That's the billion or maybe trillion-dollar question to ponder as we all watch what happens next.